And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. I have all of 40% of my battery. Things look good here. I'm on my neighbor's driveway talking to you. So I got about maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes worth of a show. So, uh, again, don't get carried away with nomenclature, right? Don't get carried away with ideology or beliefs. You are the decider. You are here. We are all here to be all our relations, the we and me. I'm here to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Jimmy Dreamland. Boop, boop, boop. And I am your. Oh, there he is. Hey, homie, I'm just starting a show. Okay, so I'll put you on uh, live here. Let's see, hit that. And I was talking about earlier about justice. And there is social justice, which is like spiritual justice, meaning everyone needs to have what they need. And then there is the political justice, like, well, we're all on a equal playing field. Well, we're not, right? Everyone's got their thumb on the scale, and that kind of just us ain't working, and we can see it all around the world. So that's where I'm starting from. What do you got to say? What character are you?
I'm just going to be me today.
I'm just gonna be me today. I'm gonna be the decider. Okay.
We're all the decider.
Right, but do we do that? Does society allow
some more than others, and some need to learn how to do it, and some forget they can do
it? And I would say that's one of the major issues of peace on earth. If everyone were to be able to decide from that cosmic justice point of view, that social point of view, rather than the cultural description of what justice is, then you can be the decider.
Right. Well, I kind of cut you off, but I think you were about to say society allow us to be a decider.
Right.
Or something to that
Something
effect.
to that nature.
And I would say no. Now, if I want to elaborate, because we want to.
Yeah, elaborate.
Inform and entertain.
Right. Elaborate. You went someplace else. To elaborate, the powers that be don't let you decide, right?
Yes, because and they don't necessarily use overt and covert means.
Yep, overt and covert.
That is sure. There's the policeman in his squad car. That's one of the more overt.
Are you on the speakerphone, and are you far away from the phone? Because I barely hear you.
How about now?
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I have to have both earbuds in for this to work. There's overt and covert ways of persuasion to make people obey. But I think the most nefarious is the brainwashing that we're born into, which is you're not the decider. You have to let your circumstances, or your parents, or the teacher, or you defer to others for your own responsibilities and needs, and we become unhealthy in our dependence to a point where we're in a suspended state of childhood or childishness, which is not a good thing. So it's either the big teat is the corporation, or the big teat is the government, or just abdicating your own sense of worth,
right,
and agency within the world. So that's the more, quote the Bob Marley song, emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
Right.
So that's something. It's funny. Somebody posted on Facebook people that I knew from high school or whatever said, "What did you do after high school?" And some people say, I went to school, I did this, I did that. They're all pretty standard answers. And the best answer I could come up with is that I have been dismantling self-made limitations. No, I've been dismantling limitations, both external and internal. That's what
Uh-huh.
I've been doing since I graduated high school.
Right. And the more you do that, the more pushback you get that forces you into bad habits.
Yeah, and I think again, the insidious nature is that it's the most powerful is the internal pushback.
Yes.
I mean, that's my viewpoint. I mean, people may disagree, and that's cool. I'm just only speaking from my own experience.
No, I would
Any
I would
positive,
agree. Yeah, I would agree.
any positive move in my life that I've made, from like we've chatted off camera, so to speak, about pursuing this voiceover stuff, and my head. And some people in the psych world will call it the inner critic.
Right.
The inner critic will be screaming on me. What do you mean? What are you doing that for? Don't you? You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't. Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? And that has been inculcated into all of us since the moment we got the slap on the ass when we came out of our mother's womb.
Yep.
Now there are exceptions, and I think the exceptions prove the rule. However, these exceptions in life are at least in my view, are the guiding lights of who I try to emulate my behavior. I don't necessarily become them, but I can certainly become awake in the true sense, not in the way that it's being abused
Yes.
today.
The woke sense.
Yeah, they should call themselves the lucid coma. But,
I like that.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on that piece.
And
Yeah.
the my life's experience is that I'm a lucky bastard in that I've stumbled through my life, and every trip I was like I had a swimming coach, right, and he went to the 1936 Olympics in Berlin with the Nazis, right, and he was a diver, swimmer, a diver, and he was, and his roommate was Jesse Owens. So he's Jewish, Jesse's black, and even the Americans were spitting on him. His own teammates were like Jew, nigger, just and those guys. He won 3 gold medals, and after he got his first gold medal for diving, um, he and Jesse, nobody wanted to eat with him. They're at the Olympic Village, and they're at the outside little dining place, and they're having a nice lunch with each other. And my coach said Jesse Owens was an amazing human being, just glimmering with love, and he wasn't, he was just he was like a racehorse. He was just happy. He was the happiest when he was running, and so they're eating lunch, and my coach, he drops his fork, and he bends down to pick it up. And they were sitting next the table. They were, when they came in, someone, you know, they everyone else was just kind of picking a place to sit. Someone like the maitre d grabbed and said, "No, sit over here. It's nice." And it was up against a concrete wall, and it was far away from everyone else. He drops the fork, and when he's down there picking up the fork, a where his head was in the concrete exploded. And so Jesse and him hit the floor, and Mike crawled out of there, and didn't eat there again. But after winning my Jewish coach, Coach Footrick, and when I started swimming, we went into the pool, and it was not, the school didn't have a pool. We had to walk all the way down into the town, and the town had a pool, and we had our practice there. And the first day, it's pool that was built in the 20s, so it had a 6-meter platform. I mean, it was like an Olympic swimming pool, not just the size and the depth, but it didn't just have a diving board. It had the platform that the Olympic guys go off of. And so he's up there. We all walk in, and we're on our little swimming trunks, and you know, we see him up there, and he goes, "Boys, I am Coach Footrick. I'll be right down." And he just steps off, and he does like three somersaults and a turn and a this and a that, and he goes into the water without making a ripple, and it's really deep there, and he swims underwater to where we were. He flips around underwater, swims the whole distance of the pool underwater, flips around, and he comes out, and he explodes out of the water and lands. He doesn't go up the steps. He explodes out and lands on it. And he goes, "Boys, I'm 89 years old." And we are like, "Oh my God." And so the most amazing inspiration. And he didn't care whether we won a match or not, but if you did 1 second better than you ever did before, he made you feel like you won the Olympics. He was a great coach. And so we succeeded because he wasn't, at all like we have to win. No, it's like you do your best. That's all I want from you guys. And so he always had a great story. He was one of my teachers of how to be a griot. Every time he was teaching us something, he would tell us a story. And so I had people like that my whole life. I just stumbled into swimming. I wasn't thinking of being a swimmer, but I didn't want to do the other two things. I didn't want to play hockey, and I really didn't like basketball. But swimming was great. It's where I learned how to meditate. One time, I was a long distance swimmer, and we used to do these things called pyramids: one fast, one slow, two fast, two slow, all the way up to 20, and then back down the other way. And that's all we did. We didn't do any of the other stuff the other guys were doing. We just swam and swam and swam and swam and swam and swam, right? And just went to the end, did the biggest practice was breathing and doing our flips. And I remember I was swimming, 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 and I stopped even realizing I was in the water. Then all of a sudden, Coach Fitchwick, drops down in front of me and grabs me by the shoulders and kind of picks me up. And I'm like, my arms are moving in the air, and he goes, "Okay, I'll wake up, wake up." And I wake up, and he goes, "You were in state." I said, "What, Coach? What are you talking about?" I says, everyone's gone. The bus has already left. I just wanted to see how long you would swim. And you swam, another 20 minutes. So I'll drive you up there in my car. But he explained that's what it's like to be, athletes call it being in the state, in the zone, where just everything works. And he goes, practice being in that and then expand it into everything you do. And that's kind of where I really started to realize what the universe was about. Because once I became consciously aware of that, and I used my swimming as my mantra, my mechanism to go into that state, and then I was consciously aware of it instead of being a robot in the water like that first time. Um, that's when so I had events like that. So I didn't "Oh, I'm so smart. I'm going to do that." No, I just kept stumbling into these kind of events and things. And I was telling a friend about my time when I left college, and I just stayed on the down low so my draft board wouldn't get me for about 2 years. And I just went from one place to another without any real anything. And I just stumbled into the most amazing experiences. And when you're open to that, when you're not judging yourself, when you're not full of fear, and one of the reasons I was not full of fear, because I went to new places that I wasn't really born into their norms. So when I was doing just being me, and it was just me, and people got to like just me, they let me to do things that weren't quite the norm. And then they responded, going, "Well, he's not catching on fire. No one's killed him yet. So I guess maybe I should think about doing." And so it was pretty much up until I was about 32, that was my life. I just kept stumbling into things. And now that's how I call it because that was my experience. But I was on that path, on a higher plane. My higher self was on that path. And my meat puppet was just going along for the ride. So no matter what we stumble into, we can either go, "Oh my, that's terrible. Why is life so?" Or we can be, "Oh, look, this is a teachable moment. I'm learning something here. Look at that." You know. So,
Yeah.
so what do you think of that?
What do I think of it? I mean, where would I start? I think it's a very viable way to live, and I'm basing that not just on what you're sharing, but my personal experiences. I had a wonderful transmission or communication from soul, God, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful this morning because, like you said, just get out of the way.
Yep.
Don't judge yourself.
Yep.
Or the circumstances. Let's go even further. Don't judge yourself or the circumstances, and just be.
Yep.
And really make a conscious intention of that. Like when I look at my life, and sometimes I'll get back to that, but I just want to move the sidebar. When we talk, and you say, "Oh, I fall into this, I fell into that," a very pessimistic side of me would say, "Oh, well, nothing like that's ever happened to you." Blah 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 blah. And then when I tell that voice to just shut up a minute, no, not only have I lived that way as well. Here's the secret, kids. Listen to your phone real close if you even got to jam it in there, or get real close to the set, because I'm only going to say this once. And Bob says it every episode, except you have to have the ears to tune in. We're all doing it. We're all doing it. We're all doing it. We're all falling into things that work out or don't work out, or this and that. It's developing that sense of understanding, sort of a map, if you will, and meditation and things of that nature give us those tools. And having masters and senseis, books, and these are guides to hone that. So that's my piece there. Let me go back to this morning. It looks like I'll probably be moving from New York sometime in November, maybe. I don't want to give all the details too personal. Right. However, it's not by my own choosing either. But is it? Here's the rub, bub.
Yep.
Again, don't judge the circumstance. And I just let go, and I looked at all the circumstances in my life, and they flashed right in front of me. And I was like, bro, the only times maybe we wander off course, and this is true of all of us, is when we're in fear. And I've certainly taken some turns into the labyrinths of fear in my life. No different than anyone else. But when I've gotten out of fear, you just kind of resume the track again. You're back on track, so to speak. And, I've watched some movies, and I've been doing some inner child stuff, and, like I've shared with you privately. And all these things just kind of converged. And I heard a nice little voice. I would like to think it didn't come from me, but maybe it came from within me. And it said, "I'm reaching you. I'm reaching you. I'm reaching you." And I'll tell you, I haven't felt that kind of peace in a long time. And it was like, it's settled. Stop straining, trying, scheming. I've reached you. Go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Accept what is presented. Your life is right there, and all that you need is here.
Yep.
The circumstances, the details, don't get caught up in. Just like my sensei Al Bob says, stay on your 20. Like Charles Bukowski says in that beautiful poem, your life is your life. Know it while you have it. The gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. It doesn't say plan them, scheme them, map them out. It says know them, take them. It's what is presented in front of us. I am very grateful that I come from meager circumstances. Certainly not where you're at materially, people, your living situation. I have a home, and I have some material stuff. But as far as society's view, education-wise, very minimal. High school, and I have a credential as a substance use counselor. That's pretty much it. But it was something I realized on my ride to work. The less I have, the more faith I need.
That's right.
And that's a gift too, because there's no obstruction. It's not like, again, praying for this to happen or that to happen. And that's cool. I'm not saying people don't do it. I just don't think it's good for me necessarily. Maybe pray for people's health and goodwill. I'm on board with that. Or may they find dignity to thrive in their situations and circumstance, whatever they may be. But and I dug that, and it kind of reminded me of something that Eckhart Tolle mentioned in one of his CDs I have. He talks about how, like people will refer to India sometimes as the land of spiritual receptivity, and he said, well, there's a reason for it, because there's not a lot of material wealth there.
Right.
So the people have to live, well, they don't have to. I mean, you could
But
be
they
like
are.
our homeboy,
They are living.
Be like Indian gangster and cause chaos and mayhem, or you could live with grace.
Yep.
And in having little, it forces you to live with grace.
Right, and that's the real one. It's instead of needing more faith. When you have, the less you have, the more grace you have, and the more grace you have, the more faith revolves around you. That you embody. You are illuminating that faith through your grace.
Yeah, well, through your actions too.
Right.
Well, that's where people will look at, like, for instance, I'm not trying to brag or boast. I'd like to just present things from my life as whatever, my evidence, quote unquote.
Right.
All right. So I never sung before in my life. I mean, I sung in the school chorus and stuff, but I mostly hid. But I did have a voice, and I knew I had a voice, but I was afraid. All childhood stuff. Not gonna bog down with details, but it became an opportunity. Well, hey, I heard you sing. I was like, yeah, I sing. So, well, we need somebody to sing for this spiritual group. You think you can write something and sing? I said, yeah. And I did it, and I got off the stage as a cappella, no instrumentation. And I just remember some of the people coming up to me and saying, like, wow, you got a lot of balls, man. That's a lot of courage. For me, that's not courage. That's not even that. It's just doing what I'm supposed to do.
You were experiencing grace when you did that.
And that's correct. That's why I'm sharing that. That is an experience of grace. And we all have it, whatever it may be. It's just that, just push past the fear. There wasn't even any fear. I had enough of repressing that for so long, a lifetime, really, until that moment. I said, well, here you go. So over time, I kind of used that Charles Bukowski line again, the gods will offer you chances. I had an incident just today at work where I could have easily, by the higher ups or whatever, they would have been like, well, it's a little out of your job function, blah, blah, blah. And I just went for it. Fuck it. And it's not even about the outcome. It's about like those moments where you really know that you're doing the right thing. You're supposed to be doing this, whatever it may be. And, I made some phone calls, kind of extended myself a little further. And now it's like, oh, I get some recognition. Like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, or blah, blah, blah. And again, not trying to show off, not trying to be a smart ass or gain recognition within the organization, promotion, and shit like that. All that stuff comes, and I've experienced this before, as long as you're coming from a genuine place. And you have enough grace within yourself that the fear is non-existent. and the universe supports that because it's love. It's love is the only reality.
Love is all
That's
there
that's
is. And
that's
service to
what that.
love's co creation is what brings us to be able
That's
to
right.
illuminate our soul, which is like a balloon. Our soul isn't really what we are, our spirit is what we are because the spirit is everything. Your soul is just the vehicle, and
Correct.
your body, your mud puppet, is just the avatar for experience, right? So the spirit is what is connected to all our relations, and that's what it is. And you, when you get into that space that you're talking about, is when you realize that your life is not about you, it's the we in me,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about. And then you can
Yep.
move forward with experience in that, and that's how you can do amazing things. It's not you doing it, it's the we and me doing it.
Correct.
So uh,
Very
so,
good.
so that's exciting.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yes,
I'd say.
and that'll be a great thing to be able to um, share with your twin flame. It will be able to um, expand your commitment to loving each other.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this is
It really
something
will.
she wants, and it's not like you're begrudgingly going along with it. You are
Well,
realizing,
I was until I let go.
right,
You know, I don't want to give the audience an impression that I'm that I'm involved. I'm
right,
evolving.
right.
You know, and to put it really plainly, I'm learning to grow the fuck up.
Yep,
Actually,
yep.
put it really succinctly.
By
And
understanding the child within you,
correct.
you cannot grow up
Yes.
without understanding the child within you. You know.
That's the key. Well, it's interesting. I was contemplating this the other day when I started really this whole inner child journey stuff. Um, Saint Christopher, right?
Yep.
Now, Saint Christopher in the Catholic pantheon is known as the patron saint of travelers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, in some of the stories that depict him, and they're not in the Bible, so good luck trying to find it there because
Yep.
it's not in there. But in the Roman Catholic canon, so to speak,
Right.
um, any depiction of Saint Christopher, let's say almost, will have the depiction of baby Jesus,
Yep.
an infant, on his shoulder.
Yep.
Now, the story talks about as Christopher travels, the infant becomes heavier and this and that. And it's basically a metaphor for your own inner spirit, the Christ consciousness that is within. And it often will weigh heavy when you're in conflict with that. Now, anybody who doesn't necessarily want to work within the Christian context or Catholic context, that's cool. Look at it like this: if you don't honor the inner child, it's going to weigh heavy.
Oh.
If you want to lighten the burden, you gotta honor that.
Yep.
And I'm just starting to, like I said, the beauty of studying these things is then you get these whammo moments where it just like it all converges and you're like, yep,
Epiphanies. You get an epiphany.
epiphanies, and it's really awesome because you're not looking for it.
No, that's what
It just
epiphany is.
comes.
It hits you,
It
and
comes.
the psychoanalysts in Germany called it lightning understanding, Gestalt. You know, you've been
Right.
weighed down by all of this neuroses, and then you see the child within, and bango, you have this lightning bolt hit you of understanding.
So here's the challenge, everybody. Right? How far you want to go with what we're talking about? In your personal lives. Going back to what you were talking about, the control system or what have you, is
The level
the
of justice,
brainwashing.
is it? Are you wanting, um, cosmic justice, or just material justice where you win and everyone else loses?
Right. which is the system.
Right.
It's just, I got a lyric in one of my songs. It says, "You got me hating my fellow man. That was your deed. That was your plan." You know,
That's it.
that's
Yep.
that's their plan.
That's their plan. That's what the war, all the wars, all the famine, all the suffering, all the poverty can only happen when others are hating the people who are suffering.
Yeah.
And then in
Or
essence,
just the self hatred,
right. Well, that's the other side of that hate,
which is
Yes.
which is all
Yep.
all these folks are coming from that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's naive of me to say, but I look at the kind of mind that could have created this mess, and that's somebody's hurt underneath all that.
Right. Mr. Globaloney is just a hurt little kid.
And it's funny. I was it was suggested, and I watched it. I should read the novel, but I'm lazy. I watched the A Wrinkle in Time, science fiction fantasy
Yep.
book. But they made two versions of it. There was one with Oprah Winfrey. That was the one I watched.
Mm-hmm.
There was one earlier which wasn't as good, but they talk about this. I forgot the name of it. It's this space, this creature that basically is an emanation of evil.
Right.
That permeates everything.
Right. It's kind of looks like the Tar Baby.
Yeah. And it's I think at the very bottom of it, it's just an entity or a being that's just incredibly frightened.
Yep, exactly. And self-loathing.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Yes,
see how
very
we're doing
much
on time here. We got 18%, probably another 15 minutes or so.
Okay. I have to make sure I punch out. Did I punch out? Yes, I did. I punched back in rather.
Right.
I was on my lunch break, but now I got to make sure I take the out to lunch sign out of the window. Otherwise, people will think, "Wow, you just spent 4 hours in there." That's not going to go over well.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you because you'll be actually somewhat in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens in November.
Yep.
At least I may go with my wife for a vacation.
Right.
First.
Right.
And then I will basically continue to work here in New York City and kind of check in on my mother until she is no longer with us, and then I will, by that time, hopefully
have transition.
Well, not hopefully. I will be moving
and you'll be in two places at once. She'll be there, and you'll come there every so often, relatively sooner rather than later, and you'll get to learn about that place. And like I said, when you're in that neighborhood, that's really only a scant 2 hours, or even less, an hour and a half from where I'm at.
Yeah, good.
Right, so instead of 9 hours,
again,
12 hours to New York, this is like just right there.
Yeah, no coincidence.
And you guys can come visit me, especially spring, summer, and fall.
Hopefully, your circumstances will also change.
Oh yeah, I'm. Other things are coming up. I'm going to take it on the road. I'm gonna get the band back together, and imbibe and be
do a little Ken Kesey.
Yeah, little Ken Kesey. Yeah, get the crew together, because I've done this number of times, and what's really interesting is once you get inertia behind a thing of that nature, like when those guys traveled across America, once they got going, they were met with love and adulation to every place they showed up. And this is in the 50s, when you'd think, these guys would have been, pariahs. And they started teaching and lecturing at universities. And at this time, none of these guys had any kind of fame, fortune, or even credentials, degrees. So, but they were embraced just by the message that they were bringing. And it wasn't a message of prejudice of like you're bad, your culture is bad. You know, this whole kind of separate, uh, oh, cancel culture, wokeness, blah blah blah. Um, it's no, they were really embraced. So you bring a message, and see colleges today, especially liberal arts schools, but pretty much all colleges. Kid shows up, he pays X for tuition, X for board, and there's a thing called student activity fund for like picnics and concerts and lectures and stuff like that. So they have to spend that money every freaking semester. So by the middle of the semester, they still got 90% of that money because I haven't done anything. And so they're desperate to do you put up a website and you show your travels across the country, you could easily make 10 to 20 grand for being there for 4 days. And they'd put you up. I was, when I was at these different universities, and not really teaching, but doing research, but I was there. People would say, "Hey, we need a professor or a adult to be the guy for the student activity guy for the students. Do you want to do it? Sure, yeah, right, sure. I'm not doing anything. How much? Oh, you're gonna give me $100 a week for doing that? Sure, I'll do that. So I did that, and I remember at this one, I think it was UNCA, and we started a thing called the Freely Inquiring Society. And I called up Norm Chomsky because his kids had read, Manufacturing Consent, and I called him up and I said, "Hey," and he, his phone number is right there in the phone book. I called him up. He answers the phone. I go, "Is this Norm Chomsky?" "Yep." "Norm Chomsky, who wrote, Manufacturing Consent?" "Yes." "Yes. What do you want?" I said, "Well, I'm from, UNCA, and we're having a lecture series, and we'd love to have you come and lecture." He goes, "I hate North Carolina. I hate Jesse Helms. I'm never coming into that state." I said, "We're going to offer you $25,000. He said, "How much?" 25,000. Plus, we're going to give you the airplane ticket. We're going to put you up in the best hotel, and we're going to treat you like a king. How much? 25,000. He said, I said, "Listen, why don't you do this? If you hate Jesse Helms so much, you come and lecture in his state's college. You'll just piss him off." And he did. He made 25 grand for being there for a little less than a week. So that is out there. If we do it the right way, have a nice web page, show some great pictures, do a live thing of us doing. I have a friend who does travel movies, and I can. He loves. I mean, it's the hard thing about him is to grab him before he's gone someplace else. But if I can grab him to do this, he could do that on his mechanism, and we could do a whole bunch of really fun things. And if there were enough of us, it wouldn't cost that much. And if we do it in the spring, start spring, summer, fall, before it gets cold, it doesn't matter whether we're really making a lot of money or not. But documenting it and then do it the next year, it's a revenue stream. Once it gets going, once the pump is pumping, it's pretty amazing. So that's my plan. And I'm not even
Once
planning.
the pump is pumping.
Yeah, once the pump is pumping.
Yeah. Once the pump is pumping.
Yep, you don't have to worry about the flow.
You ain't got to worry about the flow. Yep. Once the pump is pumping, you got to start the pump.
Yep. And all
you got to prime the pump.
You got to prime the pump. Yep.
Got to prime the pump, motherfucker.
Yeah, yep.
Shit.
Yep. And all it takes to prime the pump is to be of good cheer and grace in your heart.
And even have love for Jesse Helms.
Yeah. I met that guy.
You see?
And I was like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
You met the guy who loves Jesse Helms?
Wow. No, I was, I
haven't met him yet.
I met Jesse when he was in a wheelchair and about to kick off. And because I just happened to go to this event being sponsored by the guy I was working for, and there was Jesse in a wheelchair. I said, "Jesse, how you doing, buddy?" He just kind of looked at me. He had, oxygen in his nose and a thing down his throat. And I said, "Boy, you look like you're 22." And he just he looked at me, and he first looked at me like, "You motherfucker." And then he kind of smiled and he said, I try to be 22. I said, great, Jess. That's the way to go, buddy. And we were talking like that, and people were, because I wasn't like scared of him or like, oh, bowing down to him because he's powerful, Jesse Helms. I said, hey, that's great, buddy. Yeah, I don't know if anyone ever called him buddy. So it was my one and only time with Jesse Helms. And I didn't rub anything in his face. I didn't say, I'm the guy who brought Norton Chomsky to your college. And because he
Yeah,
was,
I hope not.
you know who started the NEA? Jesse Helms. Because he wanted to
The
prove
National Endowments for
of
the
the
Arts.
arts. Jesse Helms started because he wanted to prove to the commies that America had culture too.
And we do.
Right.
A hell of a lot more than a commie.
Right. And so the
So sorry, folks. Whatever you may believe, I am staunchly anti-communist. So
right.
just so you know that where the magic man stands on.
Right. And
don't lump me in. Don't lump me in.
And so the thing is that.
But that does not make me pro what you think I might be pro.
Right. Exactly.
So you gotta figure that out.
Russia has always had a high level of culture and music and theater and literature, amazing literature.
Most certainly, absolutely.
And ballet and you name it, they got it.
And even during the early communist period, like Hergé Eisenstein,
right.
People like that, filmmakers,
and
who were committed to the ideology. That made fantastic works. I don't necessarily agree with the ideology, certainly.
And their work didn't reference the ideology. It referenced.
Well,
it referenced
that's
the beauty.
That's another program.
Right, that's another program. Especially the music. The guys who were writing.
Yeah, certainly the music. But Eisenstein's, or at least what's written. And I can't. You can't always go by
what's written,
historical record.
Right.
So, but that's all we have.
Right.
His editing techniques. This is my remnants of film school, my 1 year of film school.
Right.
The dialectic, which is how in Marxism, everything is a series of collisions of evolutions, if you will. And Eisenstein wanted to visually represent that. So you would have one image and another image colliding, making I forgot there's a term for it, a dialectic.
Right.
And then there would be a third that sort of brings the ideas together.
Right.
Now, supposedly he was influenced by that in creating that sort of cinematic
his work,
editing style.
He may have used the terminology, but the dialectic doesn't, right off the bat mean communism.
Doesn't mean communism exactly. That's true. Right. The framework was inspired by it, and also I think true to form. What happens with any artist, and this isn't in every case, but most artists are pretty, they're free thinkers. They're sort of outside of the frame to begin with.
Yep.
They're eventually gonna be at odds with any sort of means of control.
Right, and because the whole reference of art is the artist in the first person, and when you are that, you are love's co-creation. So you're not really referencing any political ideology. And Marx, was in a German. Marx and Engels was in a German prison. Mr. Rothschild, bribed him out of there, brought him to the city of London, put him in a beautiful house where they stayed until they died, and they were the loyal opposition. Meaning, the Das Kapital was the thing that Rothschild needed at his enemy. Like, communism was the best enemy for capitalism because it was just a mirror image of it.
That is correct.
And it enabled capitalism to succeed, and vice versa. And you look at
they both supported each other.
Right. Because without one, the other couldn't do what they were doing.
Well, yeah, because you needed the. David Icke likes to call them opposames.
Right.
So it's the one actually buttresses the other.
Right, exactly.
because it enforces the prison of dualistic thinking.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yep.
like if I say I don't follow politics, oh, you support Biden.
Right.
What makes you think that? Well, because I grew up with dualistic thinking.
Right.
I don't support. It's like you're just projecting. You're a Trump guy, so you're projecting that onto me
Right.
that I support Biden.
Yeah.
I didn't even say that.
And that's the other
and
interesting thing that nobody
which
listens.
I find very amusing.
Right. Nobody listens.
No one listens to each other.
Right. Now, I've been, my whole life, when I was murdered by that nun for 2 years, I couldn't talk. I couldn't hear out of one ear. So I was shown to be I was given the opportunity to be a real active listener. I just listened. And so I've had that skill set ever since. And the people I was with, the Marinols, for those 2 years, they tweaked me into, okay, you can't talk without well, we're going to show you how to do that. And that stuttering mechanism will be a positive because it'll enable you actually to speak unbelievably clearly because you won't just be going blah, blah, blah. Because the only way you can speak is to think exactly what you're going to say, put it on the tape in your head, and then play it back. So that's why I'm real specific. And the only way you can do that is to really listen to the other guy or gal or
I'm glad you just I knew about the nuns. You shared that
right.
with me before, but the stuttering and being taught how to speak again, I don't remember that.
Right. And how
however, that makes
I
it
can't hear out
makes,
of one ear, so the other has to do double duty. But the ear I really can't hear people
well,
talking.
You are double doctor.
The double doctor.
And I don't have to say that twice.
No. And
sure enough,
the other ear is my Doppler radar, meaning I can hear things far, far away that no one can hear, but I can hear it.
He's a Doppler effect,
yes.
Very much like a passing train.
Yes, exactly. That's me.
And but shoot
and
to
the
you.
eye that she crushed,
I might add.
It looks more like a football than an eyeball. And so that sees,
right.
I almost see in other frequencies of light. So that's why I can see people's auras,
Al Bob can see around some corners.
Yes, because my eye is shaped like a football. It kind of goes over
his eyes, it's kind of like Plastic Man peeking around the corner with his eye.
Right, exactly. Pretty much.
Like a periscope, but looks nowhere.
Magic Man, just hold one moment. I want to say, so we're in the last seconds here on my battery, so I'm going to clip off on this and then talk to Magic Man. And so I'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be another beautiful day, and I have a doctor appointment, so I'll be in a place where there's Wi-Fi. So you guys
choose to be well.
Yeah, we love you, and we look forward to. Remember, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42@gmail. Want to throw anything?
And come.
What are you going to say?
Oh, and Magic Man's presence on YouTube is Martyred Artist.
Right.
There's a Martyred Artist account, and on Facebook you can see art and cool shit there, which is also Martyred Artist.
Right. So, okay. See you later, gang.
Take care. Good night, and have a pleasant